Supporters of Mayor Bob Filner rallied downtown, calling on him to get back to mayoring. I'm Dwayne Brown. The story is coming up on KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Peggy Pico. With media saturation of the mayor's sexual harassment scandal, a family therapist shares tips for talking to kids about the allegations. Then, as one of the Little Rock Nine, he walked through an angry mob to defy school segregation during the civil rights movement. Our conversation with Dr. Terrence Roberts about race relations in the U.S. today.
And you don't think of winter sports here in San Diego, but part of a U.S. Winter Olympics team is in town. We'll tell you why. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. San Diego Mayor Bob Filner was supposed to go back to work today, but our media partner 10 News reports he was in mediation. The meeting included City Attorney Jan Goldsmith and Gloria Allred, counsel for a former Filner aide who's suing him and the city for sexual harassment. Allred declined an invitation to talk with KPBS about today's meeting, but 10 News says it included a review of Filner's potential resignation. Councilman Todd Gloria and Kevin Faulconer were seen entering the same downtown building today. It's not clear whether they are involved in any mediation. If the mayor does resign, Gloria would become interim mayor. Filner's supporters squared off today with those backing his recall at a rally outside City Hall. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy has the story.
36 people held signs and joined together in song to voice their support for the embattled San Diego mayor. The rally was spearheaded by a handful of San Diego's civil rights, immigration, and faith-based organizations whose leaders urged due process. David Gapp, an Air Force veteran, says voters who elected Filner to office are entitled to hear both sides of the story.
I fought for the Constitution for 31 years. I believe Mayor Filner has his rights to justice as well.
Ellen Nash says she supports the mayor because of his support of neighborhoods.
I'm a District 4 resident, lifetime resident, been here all my life, and I've never seen a mayor like him come into office and commit to promises to rebuild our neighborhoods, and I've already seen examples of it.
Paul Carter believes Filner is just a friendly, old-time politician.
Now, maybe he went too far, and he went for treatment for that. But this is really about the developers losing control here.
Just behind the rally, recall efforts against Filner continued for a second day. Recall Communications Director Rachel Lang says enthusiasm is high.
I have never seen so much enthusiasm for signing a petition as I've seen over the past day. I was out yesterday at a few events, and everyone wanted to sign this petition. I didn't have to tell them. I just had my T-shirt on, and they said, "Where can I sign? I want this man out of office."
Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
Now, the drive to recall the mayor actually got started at 12:01 Sunday morning when volunteers collecting signatures from club hoppers in the Gaslamp Quarter. Later in the day, they staged a rally in Civic Center Plaza. They have to collect more than 101,000 valid signatures for recall to be scheduled. Now, Filner's one-time opponent, Carl DeMaio, says he will stage signature events and pay for online as well as telephone ads to support the recall effort. Today, he challenged politicians to put their campaign organizations to work on the recall.
To have elected officials stand on the sidelines, cautiously waiting, is inexcusable. It's abdication of leadership.
Among those he challenged, Democratic Congressman Scott Peters. DeMaio is running against him for the 52nd district seat. Peters has not commented on the controversy surrounding the mayor. As the mayor's sexual harassment scandal continues to grow, so does local and national media coverage. Peggy Pico explains how complicated news can directly impact a child's behavior and what parents can do about it.
From 24-hour cable news, radio, web, and social media coverage, it's nearly impossible to avoid hearing or seeing something about political scandals involving sexual allegations, whether it's former Congressman Anthony Weiner sexting nude photos or women accusing Mayor Filner with graphic descriptions like these.
And he got very close to me, and he ran his finger up my cheek like this, and he whispered to me, "Do you have a man in your life?"
So I turned around, and he proceeded to take his hand and pat me on my posterior and laugh.
I turned, and he just slobbered down my chin, and I was so violated.
How do you explain complicated topics like sexual harassment to children and teens? Here with some age-specific ideas is licensed family therapist David Peters. David, welcome back.
Thanks, Peggy.
What do you say to a child? Let's start there with a school-age child, let's say, if they start asking about these sexual harassment allegations.
Well, if the child's heard the news, there's very little that you can hide. And they're on the playground hearing the news from their friends, and they might be hearing the wrong thing from their friends. And so I suggest explain as much as they're capable of understanding. Don't hold things back. The mayor is accused of touching people underneath their clothing. It's really bad. He's accused of saying nasty things. And how would you feel, Johnny or Susie, if someone did that to you in front of people or when they closed the door? How would you feel if someone grabbed you? Let them understand the gravity of the situation.
And you've said this is really quite an opportunity to teach your children about some of this behavior. How much detail, again, let's say, is it age specific? How much detail do you really tell them?
Well, I like to find out how much detail they know first. So I ask my kids questions. I ask a teenager questions. What did you hear? What did they say? And what do you think about that? And then once you find out what they've heard in the details, then you can match it, and you can maybe push beyond that if you think it's appropriate. I like to match the details to the age of the person. But, once your child has heard something that it's beyond their age, you pretty much have to explain what's meant by it. It's a teachable moment. Don't be afraid of this opportunity. Every life is filled with crises and wonderful moments. And during a crisis or a wonderful moment, it's a time to teach about life, the nature of our society, what's expected, what's not allowed.
How do you talk to teens? Because certainly that's different. They have raging hormones going on. How do you talk to them about this?
Definitely so. With teens, they're growing, they're changing every year. With your adolescent males, they've got a higher level of testosterone in them every year, and there's no owner's manual on how to use it. I like to talk with teen boys about boundaries and about their own impulse control. We've got grown people showing terrible impulse control. Well, you know the impulse control of teenagers. And I like to, in a mixed group with guys and girls together, to talk about what's okay, what's not okay. When guys are joking about this and having fun with it, because they see on television it's being joked about, I like to let them hear from a girl's point of view. Ask his sister, ask a female friend of his, how would you feel if someone grabbed you and forced their hand underneath your clothing and tried to forcibly kiss you? What would that be like for you? Let her disgust and her anger be present in front of your son so that he can see, wow, this is serious, this is not acceptable, this is not funny, it's not worth joking about.
What about for parents? What should they avoid doing or saying?
Well, you want to avoid overreacting. You want to avoid lecturing. Oftentimes when we're anxious, we come on with a lecturing tone with our teens or our kids. And it's more a time to invite a discussion. It's really a good teachable moment. It's a terrible time, but it's a wonderful teachable moment. It's something to take advantage of.
How much does parents discussing these sort of topics, these kind of complicated innocence till you're proven guilty or sexual advanced nuances, how much does it actually affect a child's behavior?
Well, if we're not talking about it, we have no influence on our kids' behavior. What's the influence is the media, their friends, the current jokes, what they've seen on YouTube. If we have an ongoing discussion with them about life and about what's safe, what's unsafe, and what behavior we expect of them, then we have a lot of influence over them. If they feel a bond with us, then they belong to our tribe, and our tribal expectations are the rules of their behavior.
So they do listen to their parents over the media?
If you've got a good relationship. They're not going to listen to you every time, but you do have influence.
Okay. Marriage and family therapist David Peters, thank you so much.
Good to be with you, Peggy.
Our continuing coverage of the events at City Hall can be found online at kpbs.org/news/Filner. One of the four brothers who led the notorious Arellano Felix drug cartel in Tijuana has been sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Eduardo Arellano Felix pleaded guilty to money laundering and drug trafficking. Two of his brothers are already serving time in U.S. prisons, and another was deported to Mexico after serving 6 years here. An investigation by KPBS media partner iNewsSource has raised serious questions about how the Poway Unified School District spends Melrose property tax money. iNewsSource learned the district uses the money for everything from a garbage disposal, catered lunches, to a multi-million-dollar administration building, and furnished it using Melrose money. iNewsSource reporter Joanne Farian joins us from the News Center. Joanne, remind us how Melrose taxes differ from our regular property tax.
Well, these are add-on special taxes in new developments. They're supposed to pay for infrastructure, things such as roads, sewers, fire stations, and schools. About 100,000 property owners in the county pay these taxes. The Poway School District collects the most in Melrose, about $40 million last year.
About $40 million. Now, we mentioned a few things the district spends that money on. Why can't they pay for new administration building?
Well, perhaps they can, but there are a couple of issues, though, with regard to the purchase of this building. One is disclosure. Do the homeowners know what they're paying for? The second, are they paying more than their fair share? About 40% of the students enrolled in the Poway district come from Melrose neighborhoods. So should they be footing the entire cost of the administration building?
And your story also profiled one family who lives across the street from a newer elementary school in Poway. The homeowner thought his taxes were paying for the school, but it turns out his daughter has to go to a school 5 miles away. Why?
Well, in this case, Mike Smith had been paying his Melrose taxes for 7 years, thinking he was paying for the new school, Willow Grove. And part of his taxes may, in fact, have been going to that very school. But it's such a convoluted system, it's tough to track exactly where the money goes. But there's no room for Smith's daughter and 55 other families zoned for Willow Grove. They're especially upset because the district decided against spending $100,000 on a portable classroom that could have made room for the 55 displaced students, especially given our report learned that the district actually has $168 million in Melrose bank accounts. Those parents plan to attend tonight's school board meeting again to ask the district to come up with an alternative solution.
And we'll look to hear more from you, iNewsSource reporter Joanne Farian. You can find the complete story at kpbs.org/taxes. Community college students returned to class throughout the county this week. KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert tells us about a program to help new students start their college careers on the right foot.
You need to go to tutoring? Tutoring's a Band-Aid, people.
Most of the 20 or so students huddled up close to the front of a San Diego City college classroom are just about to start their college careers. Unlike the others, Bon Jovi Brown has already been at City College for a semester. But halfway through this 3-day program called the STEM Success Academy, the 25-year-old has a new perspective on his approach to school up to this point.
It gives me, steps in order to prepare myself, because I was one of the students walking into class blind with no preparation, no prior plan, just expecting the teacher to just tell me what I need to know and follow the book.
Show of hands, how many of you approached it like I just reviewed it here?
The academy is run by Rafael Alvarez, director of the MESA program at City College.
Yes, Marissa.
MESA supports minority or disadvantaged students who are studying math, science, and engineering. But Alvarez says one of the reasons only about 60% of City College students working toward a degree actually get one is that there are too many like Brown who don't know that there's help available from day one.
There's an expectation of them that they know how to approach the learning when they start. Not a week, 2 weeks after the semester starts. Sometimes they don't even find us until midway through the semester. And at that point, we're trying to do a lot of damage control.
That's why Alvarez got the Summer Academy started, to introduce students to what he calls the MESA learning culture before they walk into their first college class.
When you have a group of problems, you don't just jump, you're assigned problems 3, 6, 9, 12. You don't just jump into the problems. You want to look at the big picture.
To get invited to the academy, students already had to be a step ahead of many of their new classmates who need remedial math and English classes. But even for 17-year-old Marissa Maldonado, who took AP classes as a high school senior, it was a revelation to hear about strategies like spending no more than 20 minutes stuck on a test problem.
I was doing in calculus. I struggled so much because I thought that I knew what I was doing, but like you said, there's variations between the problems. And so I'd stick and I'd try like everything and I didn't know what to do. And I would stick to it. I'm like, I got this, I got this. Did I take the 20 minutes and stop? No, I kept going. And I did really bad on the tests.
Some research shows that students like Maldonado and the others at the STEM Academy complete more classes and are less likely to drop out for at least a year after their summer introduction to college. Whether those gains continue past that first year isn't as clear. But Justino Guerrero says the studying strategies and time management skills the students are learning in these 3 days changed his college experience. He went from struggling and feeling overwhelmed to being a student mentor at this year's academy.
Now that I know everything about the MESA program and the culture, the learning and everything, it's been easier for me to approach professors and talk about like anything I don't understand. And I actually apply every single concept from MESA when I study, when I do homework, when I'm taking tests, and it actually like made me succeed in my classes.
That success is something Alvarez doesn't want students to take for granted.
But careful that you think you discovered some shortcuts. You can do this much easier. You know, Justino takes an hour to do this. I figured that I can do it in 15 minutes. And I can still make it to the party on time and do all that good stuff, right? Wrong.
Looking for shortcuts has consequences. He tells them half of students fail intermediate algebra and 60% fail trigonometry.
You need to learn to do it and do it the right way and practice it, practice it, practice it. Almost like, remember, I said this is a fight.
Shaky academic footing is just one of the challenges the students Alvarez works with face. He says financial concerns and family responsibilities can also derail a community college career.
What we're trying to do is to empower them and help them be successful in the academic area, hopefully to overcome those other challenges that they have in their personal lives as well.
Before the second day of the academy is over, the students are talking and joking like old friends. And Marissa Maldonado says her feelings about starting college have already changed.
I was completely nervous. Actually, I'm saying was, because now it makes a big difference. I'm prepared, and I feel like going into my first class, I'll be a role model for those around me.
Alvarez wants to grow the summer academy to plant more models for student success on City College's campus.
How about a round of applause?
Kylie Calvert, KPBS News.
The acquittal of the man who killed teenager Trayvon Martin reignited a racial divide in our country some 50 years after the civil rights movement. Peggy Pico talks with a man at the center of the movement.
Terrence Roberts was one of a group of teens known as the Little Rock Nine who helped desegregate high schools. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled segregation of schools unconstitutional. But 3 years later, when a group of African-American students enrolled in Central High School, Arkansas governor defied the high court's ruling and ordered the National Guard to keep them out of the all-white school. President Eisenhower intervened and ordered the 101st Airborne Division to escort the teens past an angry crowd and into the classroom. My guest, Terrence Roberts, was one of the courageous teens known as the Little Rock Nine. Terrence, welcome.
Thank you.
What was it like to be a teenager and be ushered through that angry crowd?
Well, it was pretty frightening, to tell the truth. We, the Nine, had anticipated that folk wouldn't be happy about this change in law and custom, but we thought they would come and give voice to that opposition and then perhaps go home or to work or wherever they might go. But they were rooted and grounded and basically angry that we were there.
Did you feel brave at the time? Did you feel like I'm really doing something here? Or was it kind of like, how did it come about that you were one of the
There was a lot of confusion at first. We weren't even thinking in those terms. Basically, we were trying to stay alive. Mm-hmm. Often people ask me, were you able to learn under those circumstances? And I always say, we learned survival 101.
Absolutely. How has this moment, and I'm sure it did, how has it shaped your life?
Quite a bit. I find myself having forums that probably would not have been available prior. So I have a chance to speak my piece about what's going on in this country as a consequence of going through that experience.
Racial profiling was a major focus during the recent trial into the death of Trayvon Martin. How do you think profiling is reflected, or it does reflect racism today?
Yes, it's one form of racism. It's interesting how these terms come and go through the ages. Racial profiling is one of the current ones, but basically it's all about this unresolved issue of what to do with black people in this country. at least from the standpoint of those who prefer the ideology of racism. Actually, when you think about it, there is no problem that exists except in the minds of those who see it as a problem.
It's not a reality unless there's something that like the Trayvon Martin
yes,
case
Trayvon
that
Martin
comes up.
was simply out to buy whatever he was buying at the convenience store, and he wound up dead. It's hard to reconcile that with who we are, who we say we are as a people. We say, the rhetoric says, that we are law-abiding and we respect each other's rights. The truth is, that's a myth.
And we have a president who's African American. We have diversity in schools now in color. It's hard to see racism manifested, but do you have examples of where you see racism being manifested today?
Well, in that very sentence that you just said, it's there. When we accept race as something real, that is racism. Race is mythological. It has never existed biologically. There's no support for the notion, and yet we the people embrace it with some fervor. Obviously, if that continues, we cannot get out of the trap we're in.
Does it surprise you it's 2013, and in light of all the progress over the last 50 or so years, we still have issues?
Well, we haven't made real progress in the areas where it counts. We've made progress on the surface. We have a very thin veneer of civility. We're nice to each other these days. We allow each other to sit in public space without problems. However, underneath that bubbles this intense feeling and this sense that black people especially, or people of color in general, are interlopers in this country. That in the minds of many folk, this is a white country and should remain so.
What do you think needs to happen to progress past this or move us forward away from racism and into a more civilized community?
Well, once we as a collective want to do that. You see, I'm convinced that people do what they want to do. There was a period of time in this country when the powers that be suggested we should not sell or manufacture or imbibe alcoholic beverages. Prohibition didn't last long, because Americans said, we will get drunk. We will keep our right to drink. People wanted that, and so it happened. So far, people have not wanted to end the madness around race.
Well, thank you so much for your insight and sharing your story, Terrence Robert, one of the Little Rock Nine. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are about a month and a half away from open enrollment for the new Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare as it's often referred to, but there are still a lot of lingering questions about the health care reform law. So joining us with our weekly explainer, Second Opinion, is Speak City Heights reporter Megan Burks. Megan, this week we are talking about what to do if your health care plan is grandfathered in. Who's asking our question?
Regina Wilson lives up in Ramona. She was able to stop working a while ago and spends her time painting and volunteering. Because she doesn't work, she has to purchase an individual health plan that's pretty expensive. She was hoping for a break, but it turns out the plan isn't going to change next year under Obamacare. Here's her question.
I have an individual plan, and my insurance company said that it would be grandfathered in. How does that apply to me?
So, Megan, what's a grandfathered plan?
So lawmakers wanted to provide some stability for people who are already insured either through their company or individually. So they decided that some plans that existed before March 23rd, 2010 wouldn't have to comply with all of the new regulations. These grandfathered plans don't have to cover preventative care for free, nor do they have to go through a review to raise premiums. Some things they do have to do is cover kids until they're 26, end lifetime limits on coverage, and stop arbitrarily dropping coverage.
And how do you know if you're in one of these plans?
So this is going to sound familiar, but you just have to talk to your insurance provider. There are a ton of them out there, and no one's really keeping track.
Okay, so Regina wants to save money. What should she do?
Well, she really doesn't have any protection from rising premium rates if she stays with her current coverage. She's planning to take a look at the state-run insurance market covered California to see if she can get a better deal. But whatever she decides to do, she shouldn't do it in haste. Once you leave a grandfathered plan, you can't get back in. For more on grandfathered plans and to ask your own question, go to kpbs.org/secondopinion.
Speak City Heights reporter Megan Burks. The East Lake and Tijuana Little League teams remain undefeated in the Little League World Series. They won their second round games yesterday by big margins. East Lake team from Chula Vista beating Mid-Atlantic 15-3, and the players from Tijuana racking up a 12-0 win over Latin America. Now on Wednesday they play again, East Lake versus New England and Tijuana versus Japan. The U.S. Luge World Champion Aaron Hamlin came to San Diego today to perform tests at the low-speed wind tunnel facility on Pacific Highway. The team is preparing for the 2014 Winter Olympics, where less than a second can determine the winner or loser. Team coach Mark Grimet says it's like the Indy 500 on ice.
Luge for a World Cup race is timed to 1,000th of a second. A run is about 50 to 60 seconds long, and the track is about a mile long. So over 2 runs, you're going 2 miles, and the race can come down to 1,000th of a second.
The U.S. Luge team has been using the wind tunnel facility since the 1990s. They come once a year to refine their positioning and suits for the Winter Games. The facility has been around 65 years. It's owned by the San Diego Air and Space Museum. Tonight's stories are online at kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Good night.